What is up, guys? Welcome back to another weekly news video. As always, we're going to do a recap on a few things and share some insights on some new stories. We're going to talk about a whatnot breaker allegedly doing lines on stream, which is pretty funny. I'll get to my thoughts on that. And then also some things happening within the Pokemon market that is still leaving me scratch my head. So I want to unpack those because I still don't understand how that can be booming the way that it is right now when you're seeing some of these pop reports. So stay tuned with me. We'll jump into the old stories as always, and then jump into these new ones. Now, the first recap I want to do is this one over here relating to a video I did when I cracked this card out of a tag slab. Now, if you haven't checked it out, please do. Long story short, though, is the slab was incredibly easy to open, and some of the comments that I got were pretty damn laughable. Now, these two slabs I also tried to open using the same method on my video. My method was just my bare hands. These didn't budge at all. The tag one cracked incredibly easy. And the reason why I went ahead and did that was because there was a video doing the round showing it, and I wanted to try and prove whether or not the guy was lying because his video was very theatrical. I ended up, replicating exactly what he did. Now, what was sort of interesting was to see how many of the tag bots that usually come out and defend them as a business in my comment section saying it's perfectly fine for it to happen the way that it did, which is incredibly ridiculous to me. It makes no sense whatsoever. That thing snapped way too easy, and as I say in that video, my thought would be if I dropped it on the floor, it was going to be the same amount of pressure and probably would crack it or chip it and do the same thing. And, as I explained, as I'm sure all you guys know, part of the reason why we grade cards is to protect our collection, right? We want them in a nice slab, so they're not going to fall out of a one-touch or a top loader, and they're not going to get damaged or bent or squished. And, if slabs can break that easy, who knows what could happen, right? And that's a risky run, obviously, going with them. But I just thought it was pretty damn interesting. Now, their response was, what we sort of expect from them historically, right? They've always been a company that seems to have a chip on their shoulder, and their supporters are very much in the same vein. So there was a lot of defending coming out and not a whole lot of acknowledgement. It was really disappointing to sort of see their response saying the slab is acting as intended, where, as I explained in this video, that shouldn't be the case at all. It makes no sense. And it was just really disappointing, as I do again say in the video, that their response was not to be a bit more humble, to say, hey, this happened, let's try and look into it, make our slab better, thank you for bringing this to our attention. But no, they doubled down and said it was meant to be happening. And people in the comments sort of agreed, which I thought was a bit surprising. It was interesting to see how many people sort of say, well, what's the big deal? You're not going to bend your slabs like that, so it's not going to break. But, like I just mentioned, if something falls off a shelf or you're taking it to a card show and you drop it on the road or on the car park or something, you don't want the thing to basically disintegrate or crack into multiple pieces, which this tag slab might be doing. So I thought the response from people was pretty interesting. If you haven't seen the video, please do check it out, because I would not trust putting anything in a tag slab, irrespective of whether or not I think their slabs look nice, I think they feel nice in their hand. It just doesn't make sense. I fundamentally grade my cards to protect them, right? I don't grade them to sell. Sometimes I do, but fundamentally it's to put them into slabs so they stay in that forever, so I don't have to worry about, them falling out of a one-touch like I mentioned a bit earlier, right? We want that protection. So if you're going to go ahead and spend that money, especially using a company like Tag where you're clearly not going to get the resale value. The money is with PSA. Everybody knows that. You're going to get maximum value by going with them. So whilst Tag is a bit cheaper to grade with, why would you go ahead and do that if you're then also going to get an inferior product? Like, it doesn't make sense. So I really hope they look into it and fix it. There's probably going to be some pushback on this video as well as always. But, I want to hear what you guys have to say down below, because I'm still shocked that people think it's okay for that slab to behave that way. And again, if you're somebody out there saying, who cares? Well, guess what? You're going to care pretty quickly if you've got a pretty expensive PC card or a sentimental card in a slab that falls and cracks, or somebody bumps and the same thing happens, right? Like, pull your heads in, guys. It's a legitimate criticism. So yeah, anyway, drop your thoughts down below and we'll go from there. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this story over here that dropped a few days ago. Now, hardly anyone watched it. It is what it is. If you haven't seen it yet, please go ahead and check it out. But I spoke about Fanatics going ahead and launching their own sports card repack, and this is going to be sold via their Fanatics Live platform. Now, a few people got confused, despite me explaining this pretty clearly in the video, that this was a digital repack, i.e. it's going to be opened up on stream, on computer, rather than a physical pack. But the cards themselves are still physical. They're PSA graded cards, and what's going to happen is once it's opened by the breaker, it's going to be shipped to you as the customer. Now, I think this whole process is completely absurd. It makes no sense to me whatsoever why you need to pay somebody to open up a pack for you on screen, right? You can do that by yourself by logging into the same website. That logic does not make sense to me at all. And I'm a bit nervous how they're going to go ahead and start selling this and pushing this to customers, because my biggest gripe with breaking is that it is essentially gambling. Now, people have pushed back on me a lot. Ziggy was down in the comments of this video pushing back on me. As always, I don't think I can find it now, but he was sort of saying, well, it's not gambling because you're getting something back in return. Yes, when you go ahead and put a gambling slip in, you're not guaranteed to get anything, and breaking you are, either via base cards or something else. But it's the way in which these products are sold that I consider it to be gambling, right? When you go ahead and sit in these rooms and you're seeing how these breakers are pushing things, it's very clearly predatory for a large majority of them. And what do I mean by that? You're going to see breaks where you sit there, and I've seen this myself countless times, where you sit there and you see people spend money, and they're like thousands and thousands deep, right? And then you've still got the breaker there, most of the time pushing them to buy more. And that's not an okay thing. And when you understand how addicting this kind of thing can be, where you're literally just pressing a button and you're spending all this kind of money to then have somebody egg you on to try and push you and press you into buying more, it's like, well, once you understand that mindset of that person in that situation, you know they're really easy to prey upon. And, you know, that's why you sort of see so many people get burned and get into debt off the back of this kind of thing, which is why I don't like it, because there's not enough controls or measures in place to make sure that people are protected from themselves. Now, I've given examples in the past of breakers doing really good things, like Cherry Collectibles here in Australia. I don't always like how they approach things. I think they're very expensive, but they were one of the first ones here in Australia. And I did break with them when they first launched. Grayson, who's the owner, when he used to break out of his, apartment room, I used to be in those, and I used to see him do good things, right? He'd see people in the same situation that I just explained, and he would cut them off and say they're not going to break anymore. He'd even go into the back end and block them from being able to send him money, right? And he's gone on the record and said this. So there are breakers out there going about it the right way. But when you're talking about Whatnot and Fanatics Live and all these other platforms, where you've got people doing it, but then not doing it ethically, it's like there are so many more of them out there. You've got people getting burned left, right, and center. Packs like this or approaches to repacks like this just scare me even more, because the barrier to entry is even smaller, right? You no longer even have to have the cards in your hand to go ahead and do it. You're literally just ripping packs that are on a computer screen, right? It's a bit iffy for me. And like I say in this video, it's a slippery slope. I think this is one step closer to us being regulated, right? To having a regulator come in and do something about this industry. And, I've been saying that for 4 or 5 years now since I've been making videos. People will push back on me for saying that, as they always have. But every year, more things come to light that push us one step closer. And I want to, I don't want to see it happen, but I want to know what you guys have to say down below. Are you starting to think a little bit more like me with regards to that? Because Fanatics, whilst they're doing a good thing in this instance where they're limiting it to a specific breaker, if things like this become a bit more widespread and anybody can do it, you're going to have some pretty big issues. And that sort of goes into the next story, which is this one over here from This Cardboard Life and Rattle Pokemon, because they both highlighted a streamer on Whatnot that looks like they were doing lines of coke, which is, pretty funny, but not surprising, right? There's a time and place for things, but people like to go ahead and do dumb shit on Whatnot, as we've seen time and time again. And it's this video over here. I'll play the clip for you now. It's Rattle Pokemon's video. Please give it a like and a follow if you don't do that already, because he's done some fantastic things, including calling out that whole Logan Paul debacle with that fake Pokemon case all those years ago. But you see her on this stream do a bunch of weird things, and it's happened a lot. He explains it in his 21-minute video, so I'll let you go ahead and watch it and make up your own mind. But there are all these accusations to her going off camera, making sniffing sounds, doing all this kind of thing. It's like, guys, these are the kinds of people that are on Whatnot, taking your money and then just doing shady things. And it's like, guys, why are we still surprised that stuff like this is happening, right? You've got a situation like I just mentioned, where you've got people being predatory when they're going ahead and selling breaks and repacks to customers and ripping off and feeding off that addiction. Then you've got platforms like Whatnot allowing people on stream to be doing this kind of crap. They've got people like Backyard Grant saying those incredibly disgusting things about a minor and not really doing anything, dragging your feet to do something. Then when you go ahead and do it, you don't communicate what happened. You still allow this guy to own the business and profit from it despite saying those things. And it's like, why are you still bloody surprised? You've got, scammers outright scamming people on camera and they don't do anything about it. And it happens with the biggest breakers all the time. And you're seeing these shady things, and then next minute they get shut down for a day and all of a sudden they're back. Or they just get rid of that breaker and they bring somebody else on to do the same thing. It's like, why are you surprised that you got people out there that are ripping people off through repacks? You got all this shady shit happening when it's clear as day. It's front and center. People doing dumb shit like this. It's like, what do you expect to happen? And I'm repeating myself now, but you're creating this culture where you're sort of allowing deadbeats to come on and be pieces of shit, and then you're surprised when they rip off customers. Like, honestly, what the fuck are we doing? It makes no sense to me, and I don't know why people are still surprised or push back when I say the breaking industry has a big bloody problem on its hands. It's not a hard thing to fix, right? Just get rid of the dickheads and you're going to be fine. So when I sort of say, hey, there's too many scammers on there, and when you see repacks like this, I get a bit uneasy. The reason why I get a bit uneasy is because it's so easy to scam, and you'll say, well, it's not, people are going to do the right thing. But it's like, it's not. You got people on this platform that are doing shady shit left, right, and center. This Cardboard Life shows it all the time. Rattle Pokemon shows it all the time. I show it all the time. It's not a one-off thing. And you just got people on there, shady people, getting away with it because they can. And it's so easy to do so. And then you want to sit there and tell me that the breaking issue doesn't have problems. It doesn't have a major red flag that needs to be fixed. It's like, it's pretty clear, right? Breaking it itself, when it's got good intentions, has nothing to worry about, right? But when you've got so many people like these that are on there and allowed to prey on people, allowed to feed that addiction habit, are allowed to get away with shady and unethical behavior, it's like, what do you expect? It's primed for ripping people off. And these businesses don't want to do anything about it. So, I'm rambling. I want to hear your thoughts down below. As always, I want to jump into the next topic, which is relating to Pokemon and the hype and print runs and the like. And the thing goes to stuff we've spoke about in recent weeks, actually. We spoke about this, I want to say, a week or two ago, specifically in this video over here about scalpers fighting over Pokemon restock, right? You had a vending machine, and these two scalpers went toe-to-toe because one scalper was unhappy that the other scalper was buying all the product, which was hilarious in of itself, right? Because scalpers inherently are ripping, the rest of the consumers off because they're buying everything and then selling it at a price up, a markup. So it was just ironic to have one scalper getting angry at another scalper for doing the same thing that scalper themselves is doing to others. Anyway, pretty funny. But we spoke in that video about how print runs were crazy. I didn't quite understand where the hype was for Pokemon. Now, obviously, I'm a huge Pokemon fan. I've talked about that before, but I've stayed away from collecting modern stuff because it's just printed to death, and I don't see where the value is long term. And for me, I collect because I want a PC, so I go ahead and buy the stuff I want to. But you've got people left, right, and center sort of investing in modern stuff, like you also see in sports cards. And unlike sports cards, you don't see serial numbered cards when it comes to Pokemon. But also, unlike sports cards, there is a lot more collectors out there chasing this kind of thing. And whilst that extra demand justifies the supply we sort of see, my thought process was, well, pretty much 99 collectors out there are keeping these Pokemon cards in mint condition, right? They're basically sleeving them, top loading them, or sending them in to get graded straight away, which is why you're sort of seeing print runs like this for the Moonbryon, which is from Sword and Shield Evolving Skies in 2021. You guys, even if you're not a Pokemon guy, if you're just a sports card fan, you probably would have seen this card before. There are 15,800 of them in a PSA 10. And when I was looking through Reddit threads from 18 months ago, this number was half. So these things are growing like crazy, and this is meant to be a card that people are actively sought after and chasing, but there's 16,000 of them, and that's still minor when you look at the grand scheme of things. And obviously there are prismatic Umbreons now and these other cool ones that people are chasing that are the talk of the town, and obviously there are millions of Pokemon collectors out there, but I'm still not grasping why people are sort of going head over heels for this kind of stuff. And you're seeing people create YouTube channels now talking about this, the Sports Card Dad and a few others, going crazy for Pokemon when they don't know anything about Pokemon. It's pretty weird how everyone's sort of getting into this hype now, and I don't understand why. And I'm not a hater of Pokemon. I collect it, like I think I just said. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just said it in my head. But I collect this sort of stuff. But the modern stuff, worries me. If I go back and look at the original set for Charizard, there's 121 of the first editions in a PSA 10. There are 489 in the base set, and then the Shadowless has 58 in PSA 10. And that's a stark contrast to this. And primarily it comes down to the fact that the reason why these things are collectible, number one, is for nostalgia. Number two, because nobody kept them pristine. Every collector out there, like I explained in this video over here, is putting their Pokemon stuff in slabs instantly. So if everybody's doing that, they're clearly doing it because they want to try and maintain value and maintain protection. But in 10 years' time, if they've all got that same mindset and they all try and sell it at the same time, who the heck is going to be there to buy them? Because if everybody's only doing it to keep them perfect and then do that for valuation and treat it as an investment, why is there going to be a market for them in the future? Because nobody actually wants them. At least that's how my mind is sort of thinking through it. And obviously, there are millions of Pokemon collectors out there across all avenues because it's such a big IP. So chances are there's still going to be people out there that want to buy this sort of thing. But I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. Like when you look at sports cards, you have serial numbered cards, and people will navigate to things like rookie years or one-of-ones or filthy patch relics from important games, all that kind of thing, right? You've got very things you can hyper focus on. But I don't know if it's there for Pokemon, especially when new sets get released every year. These things aren't capped when it comes to print runs. It's just one of those ones that I just can't comprehend. And I go to card shows and I'm seeing Pokemon boom like crazy. And, I'm happy because I have a lot of older Pokemon stuff. But for me, it's like, I'm worried, right? People out there keeping this stuff pristine. Everybody's doing the same thing. And if everybody's doing the same thing, is it going to be worth anything down the line? Like everybody's doing it for the same intentions you are. You think you're clever because you're getting this card and you're keeping it in a PSA 10 and you're the only one out there doing it. It's like, mate, literally every single other person is doing the exact same thing as you. So if you think you're going to get rich off that long term, then you're out of luck. I think the play is to do it, the flipping game, right? Sell them now and make money that way. But anyway, maybe I'm off base. Maybe I don't understand enough about the modern market. I'm not trying to say I'm a Pokemon expert or anything like that when it comes to the modern stuff. But I want to hear what you guys have to say down below, because I just thought that was, you know, pretty interesting to sort of see 15,800 of these when this is something that people are drastically chasing is just odd to me. Like, that's a lot, irrespective of whether or not there's millions of collectors out there. That's a lot for this one card that's meant to be a grail piece. Like, I wouldn't consider a card where there's like 16,000 copies and even more out there that are not graded. And this is just PSA. This does not include CGC or BGS. Like, that's not a grail to me. So maybe I'm just too old now to understand. So anyway, please share your thoughts down below, guys. As always, let me know what you think about my comments on the breaking industry. I just think it's wild and makes no sense. Anyway, it is what it is. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.